Hello, my name is Aubrey Dowless, and this is my presentation about Jan van Eyck. This is going to be a visual timeline of his art over his lifetime. So, the big question to be posed is, who was Jan van Eyck? Eyck was from the Netherlands, and he was born in the town of Eyck. This was in the year 1390. He worked for only two people in his life, John of Bavaria, Count of Hainaut-Holland, from 1422 to 1424, and then Philip the Good, Duke of Burgundy, from 1425 to 1441. He worked for the Duke of Burgundy for the chunk of his life. The reason that he worked for two people is because when John of Bavaria died, the Duke of Burgundy, Philip the Good, took over for John of Bavaria, therefore taking the people that worked for him. The reason that his work ended in 1441 is because that is when he passed away. The first painting we have of Van Eyck is from 1420. There's only 20 paintings of his that we still have, and this is the earliest dated one. We do not know if there's any before it that may have gotten lost. This shows the birth of John the Baptist. You'll see throughout this that he has a biblical influence in everything that he does. Next painting I have here is St. Francis receiving the stigmata. St. Francis fasted in the wilderness for 40 days, praying for the same wounds that Jesus had on his hands when he was crucified on the cross. You can see the small holes in his hands, signifying the nails that hung Jesus on the cross. I wasn't sure what a stigmata was at first, and that may be a word that's new to you as well. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a stigmata is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person, which makes sense with St. Francis of Assisi receiving the marks of Christ. The next painting we have here is another from 1430. This is called The Man in a Blue Turban, or it has also been called Man in a Blue Chaperon. The paintings back then didn't have names, so it's hard to pin down an exact name for the painting. He could also be called the Man in a Blue Cap. You can tell that he is either working in jewelry or a goldsmith because of the small ring that he's holding in his hand. As you will begin to notice, a lot of Van Eyck's portraits portray a dark background with the person being the main focus point. The next This next piece is from 1432. This is called the Ghent altarpiece. You can see the symmetry in the painting by having Adam and Eve on either side of the painting, as well as the other scenes repeat themselves on either side, except for the Christ in the middle, holding his hand in honor. A lot of Van Eyck's paintings have a biblical theme to them. That's why we see the Lamb of God in the very middle, and all the people worshiping the Lamb of God. Also, as you will notice, above some of the people's heads, especially Christ, he would often write things, which shows us that he was literate. This next piece is from 1433, and it's called The Man in a Red Turban. There's a lot of debate whether or not this is a self-portrait of Van Eyck. We do not have a clear picture of what he looked like, so this is what we use as a basis for what could be his self-portrait. But there is no real answer whether or not he painted himself. If this is a self-portrait, it shows that he has a high status with the red turban, which would have been a fine piece of headwear, with the material and the colors. Because he worked for the Duke of Burgundy, he would have been in high social status. The Arnolfini portrait from 1434. This is probably von Eyck's most famous painting. It's the most well-known, and you know it when you see it. There's a lot of symbolism throughout this painting, but I'll point out just a few. The dog at the bottom is a symbol of loyalty. The oranges in the windowsill symbolize that it must be a spring day, yet they're wearing fur-lined clothes and grand wear in the house, in the bedroom it looks like. So this had to have been a special moment, meaning something. There are visitors watching, witnessing in the mirror, which you can see behind them. There is also Christ in the mirror. The greens and reds also symbolize wealth. There have also been theories about this portrait, of it being one of him and his wife. But we know that not to be true, because it was made for the Arnolfini couple. This next painting is from 1437. This is called the Dresden Triptych. It features the Virgin Mary, Christ in her lap, Saint Catherine, Saint Michael, and the angel Gabriel. We know that the angel Gabriel was the one who came down and told Mary that she would bear a son even though she was a virgin, and to name him Jesus Christ. A lot of von Eyck's portraits portray the Virgin Mary. This also goes along with the biblical theme mentioned earlier. Madonna in a Church from 1438 is yet another picture of the Virgin Mary holding Christ in the cathedral. The Virgin Mary keeps reappearing in a lot of his art. Even though we do not have a self-portrait of von Eyck himself, we have one that he made of his wife. This was in 1439, when his wife was 34 years old. Von Eyck would have been 33 at this time. You can see again the reds and greens and the beautiful headdress she's wearing symbolize her wealth. Von Eyck passed away 2 years after this painting was done. Here's another framed piece by von Eyck that was written between 1440 and 1441. It shows the crucifixion when Jesus was killed on the cross. And beside it, it shows a comparing picture of the Last Judgment when Jesus will return in the book of Revelation. It shows the angels coming down to earth and all the people worshiping the Lord in the sky. It shows hell below, and it's dark compared to the light on top. You can see a war going on between the heavens and below. We see this imagery in the Bible when Christ is crucified and when he rose again 3 days later, in the Gospels, he said he will return and come back to Earth one day to get his people, which is what von Eyck has tried to portray here, sticking to that biblical theme. Here's another framed piece. It is always important to cite where you got your works from. None of these paintings are my own, but are part of the public domain, free for use by the public. I cited my works here, where I got my information from. Thank you for being a part of my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed learning about Jan van Eyck and the art over his lifetime.